So welcome back everyone to part 3 of the Brompton touring video. So in this video what I want to do is go through in a bit more detail about the first Brompton trip and how it went. So there are 2 other parts to this. The first one was about the kit. The second part of the video was really about the tour and how it went. So if you haven't seen those, pop back and have a look. But this one is really to see or go through in a bit more detail what worked and what didn't work and give you my overall impression about touring on a Brompton. Really looking forward to sharing this video with you all, but there's not much talking for the first 3 minutes, so those of you who want to forward to that point, then yeah, feel free to do so. Until that time, I'm just pottering around getting things ready. Was that a bombshell? So what I've done here is set up both of them. So I've got my touring setup here that I used on the Brompton, and then what I've got here is my full setup that I use on my regular touring bike. So I've done thousands of miles on my touring bike, and it's never let me down. It's fantastic. I've done a review on this setup and the bike, but I'm a relative newbie to the Brompton, so especially the touring. I've owned this for 3 years now, and as a commuter it's fantastic, but on this trip, or the past trip, was my first time commuting on the Brompton, so I just want to compare the pros and cons of each setup. So I hope some of you might find that interesting. So let's jump straight in. So this is my touring bike. So I'll give a brief overview of how it worked and how I set up this. All these panniers are empty, so they're a bit floppy, but you get the idea. So normally on this is a rally venture touring bike. It's a bottom to mid-range bike, 24 gears. And it's been amazingly reliable. It's got 24 gear Sora flight deck, so it's got Schwalbe tyres, full size, so they've been very comfortable, and it's got cantilever brakes, standard brakes, and I carry 2 front panniers on these external racks. These are breathable, so they're not completely waterproof. They've got lots of pockets again to carry the gear. And what I also carry for long distances is an Altura bar bag. So this is 5 litre capacity. Again, I've had this for years. It's so robust. Again, I've done another review on this bag. It's waterproof. It served me well. And then moving on, these classic, I normally carry these classic 2 Ortlead panniers. So these are cavernous. I don't know whether you can see in there, so they seem to go on forever. There's no bottom to them, so you can really carry a huge load on those if you want to. And normally I leave a space here in the back just to carry my tent and a lovely brook saddle. So very briefly, that's the setup of my normal touring bike. You've also got attachments for water here. I normally have another attachment here for more water, so you're very comfortable on long distances. It's a very nice bike. I love cycle touring on this bike. So coming on to the Brompton, so the famous Brompton, so here we go. Hopefully you saw the video where I did the tour on this, and it worked pretty well. I was really happy, it was lots of fun. Just a quick recap, I carry the Brompton Tea Bag, fantastic bag. I've done more on that in previous videos. There's the Brompton frame, and I was hoping to carry a rucksack on the back, on this rack, which I purchased. But that didn't quite work out. I had some problems with attachment. So first, the tea bag. Now, the great thing about the Brompton I found when you're cycling is the mounting bracket. So you can, sometimes this comes with the Brompton when you buy it, but this mounting bracket attaches straight to the frame. You can see the frame carries on here. So what that means is when you turn the handlebar, the bag stays fixed and straight, so it's very stable, and it's got a maximum load of about 10 kilograms. I don't know whether you can see that. So this Brompton Tea Bag is the biggest bag they do, and it was phenomenal. I love this bag. So it's got lots of exterior pockets, I've mentioned that before, and it's got a cavernous interior, so really and it's robust. You can see the material here, it's built to last. So I was very happy with this bag. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it at all. And the fixing bracket makes the bike very stable. So if we just go through some of the components of the bike, yeah, I've mentioned before, these handlebar grips, they're not up to the job. They're wearing away, so I am going to change those. And the stem here, the brakes on the Brompton are bespoke cantilever type brakes, and they're pretty efficient. I didn't have an issue with stopping distances, but I have to say, if I was going up, I didn't really have a chance to test these. So if I was carrying an extra 20 kilograms on this trip, I didn't really have any steep hills to go down, so I don't really know how they perform under that extra load. But for the most part, on flat ground, weren't a problem. So some people have mentioned they would prefer disc brakes, of course, but not possible at the moment with the Brompton. So this stem, the stem is long. I've mentioned this before. It's flexible, as is the frame. You can see there's a long support frame here, but bizarrely this worked in its advantage because there's some flexibility in this. When you went over rough ground carrying a load, it acted as a cushioning, so that flexibility became a cushion. So I was very pleasantly surprised with the Brompton touring of how comfortable the ride was, and I think the length of the stem as well takes some of the vibration out. So even on compact gravel tracks, it was actually a very comfortable ride. So let's go on to the wheels going down here. So the mud guards have been very effective, but the wheels again were Schwalbe. I had no problem at all with worrying whether they were puncture. I've never had a puncture on this Brompton, and it coped with those tracks very well. The only times these really struggled is if the ground becomes really soft and muddy, and also if you're going over ground with a lot of sticks, you're going really off-road, it's easy for them to get caught, flick up and get caught here. But again, it doesn't really compare with these full-size touring wheels, so it's much less comfortable. Overall, the bike is less comfortable than a touring bike. There's no getting away from that, but it's not as uncomfortable as you may think. And I would have quite happy cycled on this on a multi-day trip over, or even multi-week trip on the Brompton. So with the right roads, as long as it's not too extreme, yeah, you can do it and it's comfortable, but it doesn't quite compare, of course, to a full-size touring bike setup. So I've had a lot of comments on whether the gearing was correct for the cycle tour. So I have to say, on this tour that I went on, the ground was pretty flat, so I didn't have a chance really to see what this was like going up big hills under load. But what I think I might do or investigate is that you can get a reduced chainring. So it comes as a 50 tooth on a standard Brompton, but you can reduce this to a 44 chainring here. It decreases the gear ratio by 12%, so that would make it a lot easier going up hills. So this is an M6L, so I've got 6 gears on that. So I think for a longer tour, which I will be doing, I will look into the 44 tooth chainring. So anyone who has already done that, I'd be really interested to hear their experience if they can put it in the comments. The big thing I think on the tour, which I mentioned again and again, I probably bored you all with it, is the rack. So again, I've done a review on this rack. The rack itself is good, so I'm going to do an update on this rack in a separate video. It's solid, no problem whatsoever. But what it did do is I lost a wheel. So the wheels that were supplied with this rack were no good, and I didn't like the wheels. Also, the fixings are a bit suspect. They were okay for a short journey, but I'll mention more on this rack review. So, but overall, this rack performed well. It's nice and solid. But the big problem here was the attachment. So what I was hoping to do was attach this rucksack onto the Brompton. I will be revisiting the fixing method to put this on the bike, and I've got a couple of ideas that I want to try out, so that will be in the upcoming video. I forgot to mention the gears. I've only got 6 gears as well, so as well as that gear ratio, I've only got a choice of 6 gears. So I can imagine if you're going up and down hills, a lot of hills, it would be more difficult to find the right ratio that suits your needs. Of course, on my touring bike, I've got a choice of at least 24 gears, so it's much easier to find the gears that suit your cadence and comfort. But all in all, again, it wasn't as bad as you might think. I've just spoken a lot of words about both of these bikes, so I'm going to try and wrap it up here. I think they're both suited for different things. I mentioned in the last video, if I was going to do a long tour over rough terrain, consistently rough terrain, I think I would take my touring bike. For example, if I was going to the Land's End, to John O'Groats, which is a famous long distance route in the UK, I probably would take my touring bike. But if I was going to if I needed mobility, I needed to hop on and off of public transport or take a plane, I think I would take my Brompton. You can even carry it into hotels if you need a break into your hotel, to a hotel room every couple of days. I can really see the benefit of this. So in performance, I don't think there's any real question. The touring bike is more comfortable, faster. But the question I was thinking about while I was on the tour is, why do you cycle tour? And the big reason for cycle touring is to have fun, to see places, yes, meet people, yes, but it's just to have fun as well. And there's one thing about cycling on a Brompton, many other people have had the same experience, is they're fun. And I've said it before, it's something about these bikes, they have got the X factor. So an analogy that I can come up with is, it's like people who have camper vans. You can get the modern ones with bells and whistles, super modern, and you can also get the T2s, you know, the old style Volkswagens that have got character. Even though they're not as practical, they're fun. And I think that's the kind of comparison that I would make. It might not be perfect for the job because it was not designed for the job, but you're constantly surprised by what you can do on it. And I think that's probably one of the main thoughts that I had when I came off this tour, is would I do it again? Yes. Would I use it for a long distance trip? Yes. Would I replace completely my touring bike? Probably not. I think I'm on a roll with these analogies, so I'm gonna push it to the max. If I was going to make one more comparison, I would say something like, if bikes were aeroplanes, as good as any, I would say my touring bike was an airline. It's fast, travel long distance comfortably, and it's got all the amenities you would want. I think my racing bike or road bike would be like a fighter jet. It's fast, a bit more uncomfortable, but it'll get you to where you're going. I think a Brompton, just on its own, would almost be like a training aircraft. You know, the ones with the props. You know, it's slower, but it will get things done, and you'll get there in the end. But more importantly, it's fun. And I think when it comes to biking, cycle touring, that's really the main reason why you do it. That's why I do it. And I think that's why I'll continue cycling on my Brompton. It's opened up a new doorway for me, I think. Not just a city bike. So as always, thanks for watching. I hope some of you got something out of these videos. Do stay tuned in, subscribe. I've got a couple of videos lined up. One of them will be on how to finally fix a rucksack securely to my bike, this particular rucksack. And as ever, watch out for the next one.